Today we are doing a two-piece crown molding installation, and these are the two pieces that we're going to be using. In this video I'm going to give you some tips on how to do that and show you the method that I use. So this is our crown and this is our base. Typically with two-piece crown moldings or multiple crown molding buildups, you're using a number of different materials. You've got baseboards, panel molding caps, all kinds of trim pieces that make up the compound molding, but this is a very beginner compound molding. It's just two pieces. This is a typical baseboard that is installed on the floor up against the wall just like that. What we often do is we'll just take a regular baseboard like this one, flip it upside down, and then this now becomes the base that we can attach our crown into. So if there was ever a basic two-piece crown molding to show you, it would be this two-piece crown molding here. What we're using is a material called ultralight MDF. MDF is medium density fiberboard. So this is a MDF ultralight, and we're going to show you some tips on how we install this in a small bathroom in this house here. So let's go ahead and walk inside and get started. The first thing I always do is I'll just kind of hold the pieces in place and just get a feel for about where I want it. Because with this, the two-piece, what you're gonna have to do 9 times out of 10 is you're gonna have to drop that base down from the ceiling a certain amount. So let's say, you want to drop it down, 2 inches or something, and then you go to put your crown. Well, that's not gonna work. So you got to figure out what looks the best, and you got to figure out like where you want it. So it's totally up to you how you want to do it. You could change what we call this section here. We call this the reveal, how much of that is showing. You can change that reveal to whatever you desire. I always look at too, like the proportion of the molding, like how, if it looks like it flows. Because ultimately you want this to look like one piece. The whole purpose of using two pieces is to give the appearance of a bigger molding. So you don't want it to look like two pieces, you want it to flow naturally. What you can do to kind of figure that out is every crown molding, you could take this Carpentry square, but every crown molding has a flat side on the top and bottom, and you can just hold your crown in there on those flat sides. You can see where the crown, the flat side of the ceiling stops and the flat side of the wall. So when you put this crown in, it's always going to have this hollow area back here between the wall and the ceiling. So throw your crown, whatever crown you're using, on a Carpentry square like this, and you can see how far it drops down on the wall. And this one drops down 3 3/8. So what I'll do, now that I know that measurement, and you can also, once you have your miter saw set up, it's the same exact thing. You can measure that and see how far the crown drops down. So what I'll do at this point, once I know that it's 3 3/8, I'll just put a little mark at 3 3/8. So that kind of gives me a rough idea of where the crown molding is going to fall. So I know the crown is going to stop right there. You can see that pencil line I made. And I'm flat against the wall and flat against the ceiling. So that's definite. That for sure is not going to change. So now I can kind of put this there and hold the crown up and see about where it needs to be. So about right there is going to be perfect. So at that point, you hold this piece in place and then remove the crown, and then you can measure that. And I got 3 inches there. This block right here is 3 inches. That's a 3-inch block. I already cut this because I already knew this setup, how it was going to be. So I got these spacer blocks is all they are. So what I'll do is I'll put one near the end of a corner and one near the end of that corner, but I won't put them like right on the edge, just so I have some room to make adjustments, because nothing's ever perfect. So I'll just kind of put these about I would say like 3 inches in from each corner. So what I used to do is we'll just use this. I got this sample piece here. What I used to do was just take a spacer block, push it up into place, shoot this bottom piece of the buildup, and then pull that out, and then keep reusing it. But now what I do, I'll show you what I do. I take my spacer blocks, which is that 3 inches I just measured. So I know that this bottom part of the 2-piece needs to be right there. I always check it and make sure I'm good, and that to me is exactly what I want. So I got that out of the way. And now what I'll do, instead of reusing the spacer block, I'll actually just tack it in and leave it there, because it's not gonna matter that it's there. So I just put 1 nail, that's it. 1 nail, and then I get another spacer block about 3 or 4 inches away from the next corner. 1 nail, that's it. Now these spacer blocks are nothing to do with support or anything. All they are spacer blocks, that's it. So now I can take my piece of molding, push it all the way up, and now I'm good to go. I find that easier than holding it up and shooting this and then moving it. These spacer blocks are just pieces of scrap anyways. And once they're in place, nobody will ever see them because the crown is going to cover them. So the spacer blocks really are irrelevant as far as visual or structural or anything. All they are there is for spacers, that's it. So now that I got that, once I put this piece in around the room, I'll go around this whole room and put these spacer blocks around every corner. And then I'll run this base up against the spacer blocks, and then from there the room of crown molding is basically the exact way you would do any room of crown molding. So that's to get you started. So I'll go ahead and do that. I'll go around this whole room and put spacer blocks everywhere, and then we'll show you what that looks like. Another advantage of using these spacer blocks is you can get more accurate measurements. Like, you already know how far it needs to come down, so you can hold your tape measure up against those blocks so you can get a more accurate measurement. So now I can actually get my samples in place to wrap this bullnose with that base. And if you've seen some of my other videos, I do this sampling on just about everything where I cut. The samples, get them in their place and remove the outside samples, leaving the middle sample, the bullnose piece, to bring me 2 pencil lines that give me measurements in both directions. And you want to make sure, obviously, when you're installing these blocks, that they're as far up as they will go. Also, what you can do, you can get high up on the ladder, and you know, I'm already up to the ceiling here, but you kind of need to look for dips and waves in the ceiling. You don't want to put a block on a dip or a raise in the ceiling. You want to look for the most straight part of the ceiling that you can. Fortunately for us, in this bathroom, it's pretty straight for the most part. I went ahead and got these pieces cut for the section I told you I was going to do. And one thing I'll do before I glue is make sure I'm good on my lines, because once you're glue, there's really no going back. So good to go there. And I'll just take my bullnose and glue this up real quick. Another advantage to using this glue is that I don't really need a spacer block here. With these 2 spacer blocks, this will fall exactly where it needs to fall. So I got my joint glued up, and now we're going to install it. And one thing I do know too, since this is an outside corner here, know for dead sure for a fact there's a stud right there. So I go up 1, down 1. I'll do the same thing on this big part of the molding. See how that molding's really thick right there? With this ultralight, you don't want to shoot into the thin part because you won't get any grab. Same thing over here. I know for dead sure there's a stud in that corner. So right now I'm into the studs without even stud finding. Then the rest of this, I just push on it and use my V pattern. Same thing with this stuff, guys. I'm just gonna push this up into position. And make sure my corners are good. That's the main thing with this stuff. Your corners need to be good to go. Alright, so there you have it, guys. That's how you can do a two-piece crown molding build-up. That's the way I do it, and it's worked for me, and the results always come out great. So hopefully you learned something from this video. Just to summarize it, what you want to do is find out where you want your reveal, how much of a reveal of a baseboard on the baseboard you want. You want to kind of hold that up in position, mark it off, and then get a measurement on your mark, and then that's the size of the spacer block that you want to use. Then you want to go around and put those spacer blocks about 3 to 4 inches away from every corner. Then you can put your base molding in, and then from there it's just normal wrapping crown molding. The two things that I would say are most important when you are doing a two-piece build-up crown that you want to make sure that are good every time is that these miters look like one piece, that they're not skewed off to the side, because that's really unattractive looking. And then the second most important thing is that this reveal with the base molding stays consistent throughout. Now you're gonna have some variance a little bit just because no ceilings are perfect, but as long as it's not, you know, like a 1/4 inch or something, you should be good to go. So there you have it. That's how I do two-piece crown molding installation. Hopefully you learned something from this video, and we'll see you next time. Take care.